A disability is something that has a major impact on your life.
Every disability is different.
And it's never the same thing for two people. I am blind in my right eye totally and partially sighted in my left eye.
I was 18 years old. We were traveling way too fast on a gravel road. Broke my neck, my back.
My Asperger's syndrome and my cerebral palsy.
I have anxiety and depression. People would have no idea just talking to me.
Being independent means different things to different people.
I want to live in my own house. I want to pay my own bills.
Live independently and not rely on other people.
When someone is not able to live as independently as they can, it does have a detrimental effect on people's physical and mental well-being.
It's no complicated thing. It's just that people with disabilities want to be included.
Plenty of people get stuck in ruts when they feel like they can't overcome something in their life. That's where Lift comes in.
Living independently for today and tomorrow. Lift. We help people of all ages and all types of disabilities find the resources or acquire the skills to live as independently as possible.
We serve the southeastern 18 counties here at the Billings office. We have a variety of things that we offer. We can help with grant funding for adaptive equipment.
Maybe a home modification so they're able to access their home. We help people to find that funding.
Helping people apply for Social Security benefits.
Medicaid, Medicare, housing.
They have a peer support group. Peer support, I think, is key.
Sharing life experiences is one of the most powerful things to help people who might be new to disability, who might be struggling with their disability.
Youth transitions is kids that are transitioning out of high school. They need to learn those adulting skills. It might be rent an apartment, learn how to grocery shop, budgeting.
Help someone advocate for themselves in a school or an employment setting. One of our biggest strengths is providing folks with information and referral. If we can't help you, we hope to know who can.
A lot of times we'll have a potential consumer call in and they think that they just have one need, and it turns out that we end up finding 3 or 4 things we can actually do for them.
You can just come in and say, hey, I feel like I have this going on. Can you help me? And we can, which is so cool to me. I love that.
Most of us on staff at Lift have identified ourselves as having one or more disabilities. That is helpful in many cases.
It's easier to empathize with someone when you yourself have struggled with a disability.
This is what we specialize in. This is who we are, and this is what we do.
And it costs nothing to go to Lift. It's a nonprofit organization and they're there to help.
Somebody that was a consumer that was working with Lift was asked to do an art project. He visualized that the balloon helps to lift people up. And then it became the logo, and it's stuck.
There's been success on all kinds of levels.
It's really rewarding to have a consumer go, hey, I was able to do this by myself today.
We want people to live their best life as independent as possible.
Live as everyone else in society and live as a part of society, not apart from society.
Everybody needs help. Sometimes you just need a little more help, and that's okay. That's absolutely okay.
There's plenty of life to live still, and there's a way you can do it. Keep chipping away at it, little by little by little.
Knowledge is power. Let's share it, for crying out loud.
Send us an email, give us a call. We'll do our best to help.
We can definitely help figure out what your needs are and get started on that. We're one of many steps in the path to independence, and we're happy to be serving people here in the community.
Welcome to Living Well in Montana, a Community 7 television show sponsored by Living Independently for Today and Tomorrow, LIFT, a center for independent living that provides independent living services in the 18 counties of South Central and Southeastern Montana. Today, we have a very special guest with us to talk about digital equity and inclusion. My name is Carlos Ramalho. I am the executive director of LIFT, and we are going to be talking with Francella Oshilio. Francella, forgive me if I don't pronounce your name correctly. As you may remember, I am deaf. I can't even hear myself. And I try the best I can to pronounce people's names. Sometimes they don't come out very correctly. So I would like to invite you to introduce yourself, to tell us who you are, where you work, and what your specialty is. Welcome to our show.
Thank you so much for having me and for being so flexible about me being able to join you. I am normally based in Washington, D.C. At the National Telecommunications and Information Administration, which is based in the Department of Commerce. But today I am on travel, traveling to a conference in Nevada. So I appreciate just being able to join you. As you mentioned, my name is Francella Ochoa. I am the director of the Office of Public Engagement, and my job is to be essentially the team leader for an office that is the front door of the NTIA's agency. We meet with public and private stakeholders. We make sure that questions are vetted to the right people, that we get answers when stakeholders are looking for them, and that we are also making sure that we share what is NTIA doing in terms of its body of work, and also what are opportunities to collaborate. So it was really beautiful to be able to, where I met you in Montana, to be able to go on site and in a community to see some of the work that's happening and to lift up some of the digital equity initiatives. And so when I think about when you said what is in my portfolio of work, I am mostly known for my work on broadband. I do work on other tech policy issues, but in my work at NTIA, I focus specifically on Internet for All programs and focus on strategies for us to make sure that we as an agency deliver on that promise, and that we also build partnerships with public and private stakeholders across the country to make sure that no communities get left behind.
Wow, that's a lot. I would like to share with the viewers that Francella and I met early September in Missoula. During the month of August, we were surprised with a telephone call from her office informing us that LIFT's efforts to promote digital inclusion and equity among the elder and the population with disability of South Central and Eastern Montana was recognized by the Federal Department of Commerce. And I wanted to ask you, Francella, how did the Secretary Raimundo heard about a small nonprofit organization and the things that we did in such a rural and remote part of the country?
Well, I have to tell you, I think that as much as sometimes it's that we are in a reactive posture, people would be surprised that in the Office of Public Engagement, we are constantly doing our homework. It's not enough for us to know who's reaching out to us. We think all the time about organizations where we need to move closer to them. And so when we were looking at organizations around Montana, your organization was one of them that was first in mind. Part of it being that we hadn't seen something like what you guys were doing with especially your app and making sure that just digital access was more accessible for populations of people living with disabilities. we also take that very seriously because I think people forget that just because we are currently, I might not be a member, identify as having a disability, it doesn't mean that I won't in the future. And so when I think about the work that we're doing to support the communities that you're working to support, I think that it's everyone's charge. I think we all need to get a little bit more involved. And so when we were going to have an event in Montana, literally we had 4 organizations that we were going to reach out to, one of being the State Library Association, and yours was second on the list. So I have to give credit to a very eager person on my staff who was like, look, pay attention. And then we did our homework and reached out. But I'm really proud that we even find projects like LIFT, and that also it's the first of many projects that we find. And so very often, as we move closer to projects we see that we think are remarkable, it usually unearths something else that's interesting right around the corner.
Wow, that's very impressive. But you know, it was back in August when your office started talking to us and in Missoula that I first heard about the Digital Equity Act. And it is such a complex piece of legislation with goals and purposes that really help society and community jump into the 21st century. And I already knew that digital inclusion was one of the priorities for the aging and disabled communities, but I realized how serious this administration was taking the issue, and the efforts that Lyft did, the investments that Lyft made to promote digital inclusion, equal access, equal opportunity, were so small with what is now offered to the country. Would you have a few words to explain to our audience what is digital equity and why is it so important for American society to be upfront in that area?
So I'm going to tackle one of the first things that you said, and then also explain what is digital equity, and then why is it so important in the broader American landscape. So a point that you made about the fact that the little bit of investments would have been a really big deal a few years ago. As a person who's been working on broadband since 2018, back then we were begging for people to even acknowledge digital equity as a term. There were parts of the country that wouldn't even cite it that way in a town hall meeting. It was called digital equity on one part of the country and digital inequality in another part of the country. And I think that this moment in particular, it speaks to how much there has been a transformation in the broadband landscape about what it is, and also transforming the way we think about whose responsibility is it to operationalize digital equity. To what is the definition? One of the things that I think is still hard is that digital equity means something different in different communities. But essentially the takeaway is that digital equity ensures that every single person can benefit from technology. We know that it is not enough for people to have access to high-speed internet if they can't afford to maintain their subscription, they don't have a device to adopt, they don't know how to use the technology, they don't have the tech support to actually make good on that connection. So digital equity goes beyond our previous conversations about broadband access, and it ensures that every single person has the tools required to actually benefit from high-speed connections. When we think about why is it important in the broader landscape across the country, at first, I think the conversations were usually focused on why each, whether it's local government, county government, state governments, should start to focus on making digital equity a priority. What happened back in around 2020, maybe actually before the pandemic, brewing in 2019 and 2020, there was more and more demands for people to say, we need this to be a national priority. It's not enough to be a one-off. By the time the pandemic came, it confronted people in ways that I don't think that lawmakers and policymakers who treated this as a theoretical issue were now confronted with it in their neighborhoods. This wasn't just about some kids in some other parking lot. This was about our neighbors. This was about the kids at your child's school, the people that we go to church with, the people that we work with. This was bigger, it was broader, it was everywhere, and we couldn't get away from it. So the Digital Equity Act was an effort to complement efforts to expand broadband. And the Digital Equity Act essentially funded the people infrastructure, the computing device challenges, and all of those other parts that were not addressed with broadband deployment funds. And so it was meant as something to complement other investments in broadband. It was also meant as, quite frankly, it was the first time digital equity was defined for the federal government. So that was a huge win for advocates. And when I think about its long-term impact, it's really important that when we think about this moment in particular, we recognize that digital equity is not just something that is separate and apart from the work that we do. It is an underpinning of every single part of thinking about how we do what we do, and it can't be treated as something that's separate and apart.
Oh, Lyft already knew how important digital equity and inclusion is because nowadays there is no independence, no independent living without the use of a cell phone, Android or iPhone, or a tablet, a laptop, a computer, or internet connection. And it's interesting to listen to your description and what it is and what the Digital Equity Act is promoting, because during the COVID, we went through that experience when people needed technology to be part of the community and interact with others. And those who didn't know how to use the technology were left out, were left behind. You will be happy to know that in addition to our website and our app, Lyft now has a digital literacy hub, and we are offering the community digital literacy classes. So we are inviting our viewers who are aging or part of the disabled community who do not know how to use a cell phone, a tablet, a laptop, or even a computer. Our independent living specialists are available to sit with you and teach you step by step how to use the technology, not only for entertainment, but like Francella said, to shop, to order medication from the pharmacy, to communicate with friends and family, to attend the church services. We pray that we will never go through a pandemic again, but we know that the habit and the use of technology that society developed during the pandemic and even before will never go away. They will continue to grow. And now, with the use of artificial intelligence, it will only increase. And it's incredible to listen to Francella talk about the children attending school and in need of equipment and that knowledge. We are also providing the youth attending special education in high school, elementary, or middle school. And we are also supporting these individuals in learning how to use the technology and operate. Lyft wants to be part of the 21st century digital revolution, and we want to partner with the Department of Commerce and expand our initiatives and continue to grow with that area. We met incredible people with Missoula during the event. The Association of Libraries of the State of Montana, the initiatives about telehealth, and we are going to use their support for all the services that Lyft provides. So, how do you see the Digital Equity Act changing the landscape of the digital revolution in the state of Montana? Let's talk about Montana for a little bit.
Well, I think that I want to revisit just a few things that you said, just in terms of like how, just let's zoom out and talk about nationwide and then specifically in Montana. In general, having federal legislation that actually acknowledges that digital equity should be a priority also gives a permission structure to states to then chime in and say, well, we think it should be a priority as well. So remember, states can also come up with their own legislation that complements federal legislation. So that's part one. Part two on that is that when there's legislation, there are also resources assigned to a problem. And so it is not just on whether it's local governments, local philanthropy, local businesses to have to come up with the resources to actually help address the problem. That means that when we have legislation and we also have public dialogues and public spaces, that we have more resources, whether it's funding, whether it's manpower, whether it's making it a policy priority. All of those things matter when we are trying to make the situation better. When we talk about Montana specifically, there's something that you said at the Montana event that stuck with me. I actually said it when I came back to Washington, D.C. And when you were talking about who we call marginalized children are also going to be the marginalized adults 20 years from now. And I just felt like there was something about that that just grabbed me. And part of it being that this is about us stopping cycles of digital poverty. This is about us making different choices and giving different options to people so that they can work, live, learn wherever they want, whenever they want. That we don't have to put conditions on how they start a business or where they apply to school or whether or not they know how to apply for a mortgage online or if they can actually sort through their health records when they don't have an email. Like, there are so many things that we do on a daily basis when we have the benefits of digital citizenship, where we might be checking our phones, we check our laptops, we have a way to communicate with people, we don't have the same geographic borders. We have so many more options. And one thing that we think about is not just holistically across the nation, but when we think about that impact is in your neighborhood. Because when you have large groups of households that are not connected, whether it's in a county or in a zip code, there is a collective impact on everyone that those houses touch. That means that we have less access to their genius and their problem solving. That means that we pay a little bit more in terms of the tax revenues that we don't get if they don't make as much money. There are so many issues that end up being a ripple effect when we have people who are not connected. So when I think about not just what does this mean for people nationwide, and I think about what does it mean for people in Montana, it means that just even like a year and a half ago, approximately 1/3 of Montana was struggling with baseline access to broadband. Hopefully that number looks different at the end of 2025 when a lot of the BEAD investments are being made and also digital equity investments are announced. But when we think about what does that actually feel like in someone's neighborhood, that means that we have more people who can have different options for education. That means we have people who are making more money because they can have higher skilled jobs. Because we know that from like research that the more digital skills a worker has, the higher they actually their wages are per hour. And so that's something that doesn't only lift up a household, that also lifts up the entire area where their taxes are collected, because that's where we get access to social services from those revenues. So I think I just want to make sure when we talk about it, for a long time, we have talked about the digital divide as being a very individualized impact where we said, oh, it's just these households that are disconnected. And that's just not true. Because if we had that many households that had dirty water, it would be an issue for every single person that they were touching. So when we talk about these issues, I just want us to be able to be authentic in that it has a collective impact. And then finally, as a final note, at the end of the day, this is about making sure that people can be free, like just freedom. Like I can choose, I can create, I don't have to just be a consumer because that's where my digital knowledge ends. Where the only thing I know how to do is to get online to buy something or just to respond to something, but that I can actually create and contribute to a digital ecosystem. And when it comes to, especially in Montana, where you have the number of tribal lands in Montana, that has a huge impact on when we think about indigenous populations that are statistically the most challenged, digitally challenged when it comes to getting broadband access across the country. So that has a very unique and disparate impact on Montana writ large. So I don't want to forget to mention that this has a very different impact on tribal lands and that we need to make every single effort to make sure that those Americans are part of our digital economy.
I love the term digital citizenship. And I want to share with you and share with our viewers that during this year, until July 26, 2025, Lyft is committed to promoting digital inclusion and equity to form what Francella just referred to as digital citizenship in our service area. Lyft is committed in association with the Federal Department of Commerce to make sure there isn't one individual in Montana, in our service area, who is not enjoying the benefits of digital justice. Because I think even though the name of the act is just equity, digital equity, I think the true purpose of this legal act is to promote digital justice. And not one citizen will be left behind if it depends on us. We, as I said, we invested in our state-of-the-art website. We are the first Center for Independent Living to have an app, and all those things were done with you, viewer, in mind. And now we are moving forward, and we will teach individuals how to use the technology, and we will provide the technology to those who cannot afford it, to those who are going through school and need technology to complete their classes. Together, we will bring Montana into the same level of our other more developed states and make it step up to the level of digital citizenship that is expected of us. Francella, thank you so much. I told you that the time was going to run so fast and it would be over before we had the time to talk about all the issues and ideas that were brought to the table by the Digital Equity Act.
I could
Thank you
talk to
so
you forever.
much. Yeah,
Thank you so much for
maybe in
having
the
me.
maybe in the future you can come back and we can talk about one specific issue or a specific achievement that together we were able to reach. Thank you for all the work you are doing on behalf of all the nation, on behalf of Montana and the Lyft's consumers. We appreciate your hard work and the things that you are teaching us and for building this bridge into the 21st century. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Iron sharpens iron. I really appreciate being able to be here.